Greetings everyone, and welcome back to the channel. TJB Chris here with another Tandy computer video. This time on the 1000SX. In my last video on the RLX, I had mentioned that I had network capability in the SX, and if anybody wanted to see a little overview of it, let me know in the comments. And a few of you did, so thank you for watching, and also thank you for the affirmative. So here's that video. I'm going to go over what card I have, and I'll show you the materials that came with it and all that good stuff. We'll take a look at the card itself, the configuration in this machine, both for I/O, interrupt, that kind of thing, but also the packet driver configuration and using mTCP. The latter two of which are really pretty simple once I figured it out with the terrible documentation that this card came with. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So my card is a Racal, I have no idea. Interlan. This card is the NI5210, which is an ISA 10 base T card, so it only has the familiar RJ45 connector on it. This card came in the box, as you can see, and came with a manual, driver disk, but this disk is unfortunately a 1.2 meg floppy, so I shoved a 1.2 meg drive into the 4825SX to get that working. It also comes with a little addendum here. The jumpers on the card are in different places and blah 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 blah. That's right, this one might have the AUI connector as well. But either way, the jumpers have moved, as you can see here. But otherwise, this is, just kind of... Now the manual, despite being relatively thick, is also relatively junky. So it tells you how to put the card into the computer, and it tells you how to configure the jumpers, which is the only useful thing in this, is configuring the jumpers. Everything else in this manual is bunk. And that's because, yeah, great, you know how to put the card in, you know how to connect the network to the card, you plug the cable in. See, oh, look at that. See, just in case you didn't know, this goes in there. Riveting. And then it really focuses on the Mac software aspect of this, which was pretty stupid, and there's really not a whole lot other than the diagnostic program for the PC of information about how to actually configure the card or do anything. Fortunately, the driver disk came with some readmes and things that kind of helped me through it, so, and the rest of it's just junk. So that's what came in the box. The card, the foam's in there, it came in an anti-static bag. This was an eBay special. I probably got it for 25 or 30 bucks. So let's take a look at the card itself. Alright, so we're going to slide this out and take it apart. And this is the card. So as you can see, for the very quick run through the addendum, the jumpers are moved around. This does have the AUI connector, and of course it's pretty straightforward. It's actually a nice short 8-bit card again. Racal Interlan NI5210C. This is a 10 base T card. You might be thinking, 10 megabits, what am I going to do with that? And, well, on an 8086 computer, plenty. So here's how this card is configured. We are at base address 360 hex with the memory address at D00, that's hex, and interrupt 3, the packet in at hexadecimal 78. And I used IRQ3 because I don't have a second COM port in this machine. On the serial board it's disabled, so I only have COM 1 on IRQ4. So that's going to stay there, and this shouldn't conflict with anything. So back in it goes. Alright, so let's take a look at the boot up, and we'll take a look at how the card starts up. Then what I'll do is look at the card's configuration, and we'll look at it in use. And this is DOS 5 on here, so using the XT IDE boot from that compact flash card you saw. And other than DOS key, there's the packet driver for the card. And now we have DHCP, which is part of mTCP, going out and getting an IP address from the network. And there's its IP address offer. You can see here it stores it in cnet mtcp.config. That file actually contains not only the base settings for the card, but anytime DHCP runs and gets an IP address from the DHCP server, that's where it goes. And then you can see the next bit is mTCP also has an NTP client. So what I did was configured it to go to Google's NTP server and set the system date and time. So this actually fixes one of the problems I have with this machine, which is the smartwatch that's built in has a dead battery, so it perpetually thinks it's 2015. So this works right around that very nicely. So how is this card configured? I'll show you what autoexec.bat looks like and what the mtcp.config file looks like. Okay, I'm going to apologize somewhat for the static shot here, but we'll go through the basic config files here and then we'll take a look at it in operation. So first is config sys. The big reason I'm showing you config sys is because there's nothing network related here. I've got setver running, I've got my files set up, that's actually because Windows 3.0 is on here, and then I have my drive parameters for the 360K and 720K drives. So that's config sys, there's nothing really else here. Let's go on to autoexec.bat, shall we? Okay, so most of this is boilerplate. I like my prompt the way I do, path for DOS and deskmate, temp dm config for deskmate, remmed out the smartwatch bit, DOS key, and then here we have the good stuff. I have a tcpnet.bat that we'll take a look at, and then I have SNTP, which is the client for NTP, and that sets the clock, and this is the IP address of the NTP server. And of course I've commented out deskmate startup. So let's take a look at tcp.bat. And the reason I broke out this into a separate batch file is because this way I can start the machine without the network if I want to. It's not too bad in terms of memory, but it's just a little easier this way. And so the packet driver is actually relatively simple. All I have to do is call, it's a standard DOS executable, NI5210, tell it where the packet address is, the interrupt, the base address, and the memory location, memory window. And then here I have this cnet mTCP config, which I now set for mTCP to work, and then we call DHCP and update the path. Pretty straightforward. Alright, let's go there. It's about mTCP. So some of these options here were actually present before DHCP came along. So here you can see the packet int, 0x78, HTTP serve, HTTP docs. So mTCP has an HTTP server, which I will demonstrate, and I actually have a little page served up by the Tandy 1000. Set the host name on the machine, the MTU, which is the standard 1500 byte MTU, and then the IP address. All this bit, last bit, was actually set by the DHCP, and you can see there's the lease time 86400. That's in seconds. So if I were to run DHCP client again, it would just update the bottom of this file and update for me as needed. And in fact, there's a timestamp here, which, of course, because I don't run SW clock and the clock starts at 1/1/1980, it's always going to be updated around 12 or 13 seconds. Although, actually, if I were to run, now with the updated time, driver's already loaded, DHCP. Now if I look at mTCP again, there we are. Now I have Thursday, July 29th, 2021, 17:14:32. Okay, so let's connect to some stuff. I mean, we have things we can do. I can ping things. Again, got camera on me, can't type, and the Pi is up. I haven't figured out yet in mTCP, and by haven't figured out, I haven't really looked to see if I can set a default domain, so I don't have to specify the entire domain for my network in the house here, but whatever. Let's actually go tell it over to that. And we're connecting. And we've been up 14 days. Now what's interesting about this is it will do it in blocks, so it's not going to be a smooth scroll. And I imagine that just has something to do with the speed of the machine versus, you know, how fast everything comes in. But as you can see, my host name didn't take effect. It's DOS rules. I'm surprised my host name thing didn't take effect. But the caps lock key instead of control by accident there. So actually, the way that you can fix it, you can see it doesn't scroll, it just kind of waits. But I can type it to more, and then I can get the whole display here. You can see I have an FTP directory there. And what do we have in DRV? That is the 1000 RLX driver set, which we'll just copy to this machine. What the hell? So let's just Control D out of here. I don't leave FTP and Telnet up on the Pi all the time, but they don't start up automatically or anything, but I do have them so that I can at least do this. So, okay, and now what we'll do is we will cd FTP v, show them /, here are the files. Now, rather than have to get all the files, bin mget star, and I just whack the camera with my elbow. And you can see it's got 14 files it's going to pull in. This 512K file will be a pretty good indicator. I'm at 23K a second. I mean, sometimes it'll say faster, but for tiny files you can't really. I'll find myself a ctemp. And there's my new files, along with some other stuff. Anyway, what about using this thing as a server? So let's do that. I think it's just HTTP. Yep, HTTP serve. Okay, so now what we have is a page actually served up by the Tandy 1000. Got my IP address here and the server log. So what we're going to do is we're going to move over to my retro machine laptop, and we're going to go over to, hey look, Cocoa Talk. 0.ur1066, and here we go. Okay, so I typed in the address of my Tandy 1000, and it's not smart enough to look up the index, so I'm just going to have to add the page you seek is forbidden for viewing. That makes us sad because I don't have directory listings on. And I'm sure there's a way to set the default page, but I do not know it. And there it is. TGB Chris's Tandy 1000 site. Welcome to my Tandy 1000 site, served up by Tandy 1000 SX. Thanks for visiting. So what does this look like on the screen here? SX side, well first you can see my first hit, I got a 403 because I tried to get the root directory. And of course it tried to get, the browser tried to get favicon.ico as it always does, and it got a 404. And then the second time around I tried to get /index.htm and I got a 200 back, and that means it was successful. So now I have a Tandy 1000 serving up web pages. I'm not going to do that all the time. Anyway, that's it. That's the Tandy 1000 SX network. It's very useful for getting files over here when I get stuff from winworld.com or any of the abandonware sites and throw it on here, or drivers or anything else. I can just drop it over here via FTP. I will put the autoexec.bat updates onto my GitHub along with the tcp.net.bat file and a copy of mtcp.config with the IP addresses X'd out. I will also put a copy of the driver disk, so you can take a look at that. And if anybody has this particular card or some of the other Racal NI cards, I think the drivers are on the disk, but the 5210 is, so. But wait, there's more. We might have been done with the SX, but since we're here, let's do a quick 1 to 2 minute update with the RLX. Let's waste no time. See what's changed. Hey, we have sound. So I got the Tandy driver to work. As I noted last time, the machine would freeze when I did it, and it turns out that in the same thread that was talking about the single byte fix to a 30-year-old problem with a mouse driver on these, the one I demoed in my last video, that there is a pretty simple solution to this as well. So I'm going to walk through the 3 performance-enhancing tweaks that I did to allow the sound driver to work, and also to make the machine go a little bit faster. I will also link again to the same thread. So what do we do? Okay, first for the sound, and I'll just use Notepad for this. Okay, and now I should be able to search for faster, and there it is. Okay, so for the Tandy DAC, you have to add the faster mode switch equals 1 into the standard section of system.ini, and that allows the Tandy DAC driver to work. The second thing I did was went to control panel and disabled TrueType fonts. Now, I will admit that if you do things that use TrueType fonts, they're going to look like ass now. But we'll just use the file that I used last time. I think I used networks.wri. You'll see that it pulls up much faster when it actually starts to load the file. There we go. See how much faster that was? But you can see that the TrueType fonts look like ass. But I can scroll up and down even on buffered parts, and you're not wasting time rendering the fonts, which appears to be where all the CPU time was going. So that's the second part, but don't really care. You're not using this for anything like that anyway, so TrueType fonts, no loss there. And then the final thing that I did, actually, we'll just go right back to Notepad. Could use the mouse, but what the hell. And an auto exec back. This same person has a 0 wait state driver for the RLX. So take away the wait state that's in there, and that will add a fair amount of speed. So all three of those things really help speed the machine up a fair amount in Windows 3.1. I won't say that it's a speed demon by any stretch, or you're going to be running much here, but for the times you are playing around in Windows 3.1, it's bearable. So now that's really it. That's the Tandy 1000 SX network with an RLX update. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay classy.